Good evening, friends. Welcome to my channel. Thomas Cook has fallen. It was one of the biggest tour operators based out of Britain. And in this video, we'll try to understand what were the reasons for its fall, for its collapse. So let's just dive into it. Well, the first reason is high debt. How did it gather so much of debt that it couldn't even pay the interests? So if you remember, it was merged with the MyTravel group way back in 2007, and the motive behind that merger was if both entities combine, they were expecting that they will save about 75 million pounds of money every year. But that didn't happen because MyTravel group came with a lot of debt, and MyTravel group had only made profit once in the last 7 years of its operations. So that was a big mistake. It came up with a lot of debt, and that debt kept getting bigger and bigger with a number of wrong acquisition decisions that came in the coming years after 2007. So that was reason number one. Reason number two, and I think the most important reason, is Thomas Cook didn't evolve with time. So it was in business for more than 160 years, and it still more or less worked on the same ways. People will call, the travel consultants will help them plan a booking, and they'll book it for them. Technology is changing the world. People are moving towards, people are searching themselves where to travel, how to travel, these things, and they are booking on their own. There has been a news floating around that probably due to the global slowdown, people are not spending their holidays at all. There is a heat wave. There was a heat wave in Europe. Temperatures reached about 38-39 degrees, and that's why people are not moving out. But that's not the case. Yes, there is a heat wave, but in 2017 about 57% of the British people went out for holiday. In 2018 this number went up to 60%. So the number of people who are traveling was increasing. That was not the reason for the failure of Thomas Cook, but the trend, most of the people are booking online. They do not prefer sites like Thomas Cook. They'll book through another OTA, online travel agency. Okay. Still in 2018, about 52% of Thomas Cook's all bookings came offline. It's astonishing. People are still using brick and mortar stores, and it has Thomas Cook has more than 500 brick and mortar stores, which are very expensive to maintain, because you actually have to rent out a place in a market to make a sale. Compare this to an online travel agent which just has to list, it just has to host a website. It can do it in a fraction of a cost. And then in those offices, in those brick and mortar offices, you have to put down an employee or two. You have to maintain that office and all those costs. It's a lot of cost. So this was the reason their costs was higher than their other competitors, and adding to that, they already had a lot of debt. In the past few years, most of the earnings of Thomas Cook was actually getting spended in the payment of the interests of those debts. That's a tough thing. It didn't have a lot of earnings left with it, and since it didn't have a lot of earnings left with it, it couldn't compete with all those online players which were slashing prices like anything. So you can see a lot of problems, and adding to all those problems, we have this Brexit. Brexit was announced in 2016, and this is 2019, and in these 3 years, pound has weakened by more than 20% with respect to dollar. Now let me tell you, most of the costs of a travel agency is in foreign currencies, mostly in dollars. Europeans are going to Europeans are, suppose I'm a European, I'm a British person, and I'm going to the US to spend my holidays. I'll book it through Thomas Cook. I'll pay in pounds. I'll go and I'll stay in a US hotel, where the hotel will spend in USD. The staff at the US hotel, which is owned by Thomas Cook, they have to be paid in USD, right? All the other expenses will be in USD for the firm, right? Thomas Cook also operates an airline, and the fuel of airline, the major component of the costs of operating an airline, the fuel, it's in USD. So if you just sit down and calculate, most of the costs of Thomas Cook is in USD. And what is it earning into? Most of its revenues are in pounds. And pound is weakened by 20% in the last 3 years. So you can clearly see that its revenue is more or less constant, while its costs are rising by more than 20%. This was another reason. Yes, Brexit weakened pound and it added to its fears. Okay, so these were the reasons. We already saw how having a lot of fixed assets came and hurt the Coffee Day company in India, and what has been happening with Thomas Cook. In 2011, it was on a verge of collapse, but the banks arranged for a fund and they saved it from collapsing. This time also, Thomas Cook plead the British government for funds of $150 million, but the government refused it. The government doesn't go around and invest in travel companies, because the debt is simply just not 150 million pounds. It's 2.1 billion pounds, and they eventually have to pay it back. They'll have to change the business model, and they do not have enough money to transform them digitally. 21,000 people used to work into it, and about 200,000 British people are left stranded. Now you must be thinking, these people also must be thinking, that they came from a Thomas Cook plane. Why cannot the same flight take them back to Britain? Why? Because as soon as a company declares bankruptcy, all of its assets, and that will include all the hotels owned by Thomas Cook, all the flights that are owned by them, they are not a property of Thomas Cook anymore. They are the property of the people property of the creditors, the banks who gave Thomas Cook money. And the banks simply will not let you fly for free. Yeah, you have paid it, but the banks haven't got it. So that is the reason. And so to sum it all, the merger with MyTravel, first. Second, it didn't digitalize, it didn't change with time. And third, Brexit. 3 are, I think, the most common reasons for the fall of Thomas Cook. Thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions, just put it down in the comment box, and I'll definitely try to answer them. Thank you.